The Boonsung Wreck Similan Islands site guide. The Boonsung Wreck is often described as fish soup. The density of underwater fauna found here is often higher than at most dive sites in the Similan Islands. An old tin drilling ship, surrounded by sand for miles, provides perfect protection for thousands of juvenile fish. Schools of fish are huge and the variety of macrofauna is some of the best in Thailand. It has developed over the years into a real dive site and is part of the fascinating history of tin drilling in the Phuket and Khao Lak area. Boonsung Wreck overview. The Boonsung Wreck is located approximately 5 kilometers west of Bangsak Beach, north of Khao Lak, being much closer to the mainland. Visibility is generally poorer than in sites on the Similan Islands. However, the diversity of the underwater fauna makes it an exceptional dive site and not to be missed under any circumstances. Although it is not geographically located in the Similan Islands, it is often the last site visited on a cruise. The Boonsung Wreck is also a great day trip. Indeed, it is accessible by longtail in less than an hour from Khao Lak. Key points. The wreck is a former tin drilling vessel owned by mining drilling company Boonsung. Legend has it that it sank because of a faulty toilet mechanism. After sinking in 1979, it was bombed by the Thai army, which found it too close to the surface. The 2004 tsunami also shattered it into several pieces. Its original structure is therefore currently completely unrecognizable. The years have transformed this artificial reef into a perfect host for the surrounding underwater fauna. For beginners with a depth of between 14 and 19 meters and very gentle currents, the Boonsung Wreck is perfect for beginners. You will still need to be very careful with your buoyancy and not touch anything at all. Rusty metal and the presence of numerous scorpion fish as well as lionfish can be sources of danger on this site. With a sandy bottom, it is one of the perfect sites for your last 2 dives of your open water course. For experiments, experienced divers will be able to appreciate the best macrofauna in the area. The great variety of colorful nudibranchs is reason enough to justify several dives. Also go in search of ghost pipefish, antennae or stonefish. Many morays are present on this site. In particular the small moray eel with the white eyes as well as its cousin, the much larger and rare zebra moray. Do not miss the dive site is one of the most impressive in terms of diversity of underwater fauna. It can be divided into 2 very distinct categories, large schools of fish and macro. For an exceptional dive, be sure to watch both. As soon as you descend, you will spot huge schools of snappers, fusiliers, barracudas and even balloon fish. Spend some time swimming in these benches before diving to the bottom. Search for very small creatures in every nook and cranny you find along the wreckage. Always save a few minutes at the end of your dive to enjoy a last swim inside this fish soup. Topography. The wreck rests on the sand between 18 meters to 20 meters depth, depending on the tides. The summit is between 14 meters to 16 meters. Around the wreck, sand for miles except for a small man-made reef to the southeast. Conditions. The conditions here are generally very easy and the currents are generally very gentle to none at all. This site is probably one of the most accessible dives with the calmest conditions in the region. Photography visibility is often average with not very clear water, which can make wide-angle photography quite difficult. With such a variety of macro wildlife, it's probably best to focus on the close-ups. The right tips for diversion. Even if you have your wreck diving certification, it is not recommended to enter the interior of the Boonsung. There are many areas with large openings that can be tempting, but that's not a good idea. Every year, if not several times a year, we notice that part of its structure has collapsed here and there. Stay outside the wreckage as there is so much to see. Boonsung Wreck Dive Briefing. Welcome to the Boonsung Wreck. The first important part of diving is finding the wreckage. There are several mooring lines attached to the wreck and you must use them. If you do a free descent with nothing in sight, you can get lost quite quickly. Descend the line until you can see the wreckage, then keep it in sight throughout your dive. Orientation is easy as long as you stay nearby. As you descend, you will likely be greeted by huge schools of snappers, fusiliers and barracudas. Spend some time swimming inside this fish soup. After a few minutes, make your way to the bottom and begin your dive around the wreck itself. The best way to move is and follow it clockwise, or counterclockwise, so that your dive ends where you started. Swimming slowly will take you around the wreckage in about 45 minutes. If you have 2 dives on this site, do not hesitate to slow down your pace. You will have a better chance to discover the different nudibranchs and macrofauna hidden in all the little nooks and crannies. Do not enter the wreck at any time. As its structure is very weak and unstable, this could be dangerous. Diver on the Boonsung Wreck, Khao Lak, Thailand. Pay attention to your buoyancy and watch where you land your fins. In addition to the old rusty metal which can be considered a source of danger, this site contains a large quantity of lionfish and scorpion fish. Also try to avoid swimming too close to the bottom. This could lift a large amount of sand, which will drastically reduce visibility. One of the best parts of the dive site is known locally as Nudibranch Hotel. This large section to the northeast is home to dozens of species of sea slugs and nudibranchs. However, you will need to have a keen eye. Most of them are brightly colored, but some are very well camouflaged on the rusty metal. A nudibranch enthusiast can spend all his diving on this part of the Boonsung Wreck. Finally, end your dive by swimming one last time in the huge schools of fish. They are really impressive. Then, move away from the wreckage to make your safety stop and be sure to use a surface parachute. The site can sometimes be loaded with boats between cruises and day trips from Bangsak Beach. Boonsung Wreck route. Descend along the southern mooring line until you see the X-shaped metal structure. Begin your dive clockwise. Boonsung Wreck itinerary. Swim slowly and look inside every nook and cranny for macro wildlife. Compass cap. Wreck Boonsung compass cap. Use this compass heading to travel from the mooring line to the northwest end of the artificial reef. End your dive in the same place you started it. If your boat is attached to the line, make your safety stop here. Otherwise, you can do it in the blue. The presence of tin in the Khao Lak and Phuket area has been known for centuries. The search for tin at sea began in 1909 and continued until 1992, when the last tin factory in Phuket closed. When tin is smelted with copper, it can be used to make bronze, but in recent decades more modern components have replaced these alloys and forced the decline of the tin industry. However, for a long time, the tin industry was booming in Khao Lak. Tin has played a huge role in the history of Khao Lak and Phuket. What were once small fishing villages quickly grew with the arrival of Chinese traders and entrepreneurs at the end of the 19th century. If you are looking for a bit of culture, there is a wonderful performance of this show in Siam Niramit in Phuket. One of the scenes shows a Chinese man arriving on the southern shore of Thailand with a multitude of exotic goods. At the end of this scene, the Chinese trader jumps out of the boat about to leave, to hug and kiss his new Thai girlfriend. This Chinese man represents the massive influx of Chinese migrants who arrived here over 100 years ago. Even today, the population of Phuket and Khao Lak is around 35% Chinese Thai. This marked the beginning of the tin mining industry and had a huge effect on land and sea. The Boonsung Wreck before it sank, Khao Lak, Thailand. The Boonsung Tin Mining Company used old mining ships. Modern ships are much larger and more efficient. The impact on the environment, good or bad, the tin mines have had a great influence in the Khao Lak region. The factories and mines of Phuket have devastated the natural beauty of the place and have had a huge impact on the environment, whether on land or at sea. In 1989, just a few years before the industry declined, Jacques Cousteau made a documentary showing the consequences of tin mining at sea. This film shows the impact that hundreds of ships with huge drills plowing the seafloor for almost a century may have. Below the surface, the metal claws attack Thailand's soft underbelly. Each head digs caverns, with walls that periodically cannonade, causing relentless mudslides. The ocean floor is as full of craters as a battlefield, the convicts of the sea. 1989. If there were coral reefs off Khao Lak, it's no surprise that now there is only sand. Today Thailand is forced to build artificial reefs to act as a defense against coastal erosion and natural disasters. Ironically, the ships that helped tear the seabed apart now sit like marine sanctuaries and are the best dive sites close to shore. The best ecological thing these ships have ever done for Khao Lak is to finally sink. A spectacular diving site. Tin mining has surely contributed to many environmental problems, but it has at least created some amazing dive sites. Two of the most famous wrecks are the Premchai and Boonsung. They are both tin mining ships. The Boonsung Wreck is probably the better of the two because it sank longer. The ecosystem has had more time to develop. The Boonsung Wreck, also known as the Bangsak Wreck, is a magnificent dive. During the 2015-16 season, it even played host to numerous cobias and recorded more whale shark visits than at Richelieu Rock. The wreckage attracts a lot of health, and no matter your level of experience, you will likely find something that you have never seen before. It is available as a day trip with 2 dives or the final dive of several cruises in the Similan Islands. Do not hesitate to contact us for more information.